Okay, it's 5:30. I'd like to call this meeting. Oh, we're not turned on. Okay. It is 5:30 on December 18th, and I'm calling this meeting to order of the Santa Ynez Community Service District Board of Directors. So, if we may have the roll call, Wendy.
Director Beard?
Here.
Director Ledford?
Here.
Director Jones?
Here.
Director Deambra?
Here.
Director Miller?
Here.
Okay, let us stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Have a seat. And the next thing on the agenda is director's comments, and I do have a couple. I would like to change the order of the agenda a little bit. So, well, a couple things. Should I do them one at a time?
Probably better to do things one at a time.
Okay, well, that's why we have legal counsel here. I want to make sure I do things properly. I would like to remove something from the consent agenda because I don't feel like I had proper time to review it, and I don't want it to be on the consent agenda, and that is the approval of the professional services for Rob Morrow. I'm not sure if it's just a change in title of the company or what, but that is something I don't want to do as part of the consent agenda, and I don't know if we're prepared to take action or not tonight. Are you familiar with this? Yeah, with the contract, we're just getting it now.
Just getting it now, I need to review it. I mean, I looked at it a little bit
I did
earlier.
email it earlier this morning to
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
Right, we got it today, but I just wanted a little more information before we did that, so we can talk about that. But I don't want to have that be part of the consent agenda where we just blanket approve that. And then on the agenda itself, there are, I would like to put the committee report for Horizon Drive before we get to our action items, because these people have come in to hear where the committee is at with that, and it's an important issue to the people who are here. Is there a problem with that, Mr. Battles?
No, which item is that?
It's a committee reports.
9D.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yes, there has been a lot of movement, but we're not ready to take any action, but I think the information will be helpful to the people who are here tonight.
Okay,
So,
no, that's not a problem to move the agenda around.
okay, well, I would just like to put the committee report ahead of the action items and remove that one item from the consent agenda. So, do we need to discuss the item on the consent agenda? Or how do we move forward?
You can request that there be a consensus to reorganize the agenda in that way.
Okay, well, I would request that consensus.
Yeah, I'm okay.
And
Yes.
on taking that out of the consent agenda, now where shall it go? Can we table that for a meeting after we have had an opportunity to learn more about it?
You can table it to a future meeting, or you can discuss it as a separate agenda item.
I think I'd like to table it to a separate meeting unless there's some pressing reason we need to renew the contract this month.
I don't know about the timing on that. Does staff know whether delaying this for a month will hold things up in terms of their services?
No, what we ran into was the item C, discussion and possible action on alternatives for wastewater treatment. Rob Morrow was the engineer that prepared that. He is now with a different firm, so if we need any updates, anyway, we don't have a contract with him right now, so there was no updates to that we could provide to the board. So when we come to that item,
Well, I was also intending to table that. When I got the preliminary agenda, I thought I would get another one to go over, but I didn't. And I just, I plan on
So you're moving C to C?
seeking a motion to table that item. but I was just gonna wait till I got there.
To a future agenda item, or at a different meeting, or later on?
Well, why don't we get there and find out what the board thinks? That's how I'd like to handle it. So, but right now, that's my director's comment, is just trying to get the agenda where I think it would be best utilized this evening. So, we're taking the Rob Morrow contract off, and we are tabling that to the next board meeting. We can talk about it.
So that could be by formal motion, or that could be, to table it could be by formal motion, or that could also be by consensus.
Well,
I think we have a consensus already.
I'm fine with pushing it down the road.
Yeah.
anybody have a problem with that?
Yeah.
Then I would call that a consensus. Okay, so, and then the other item that I would like to do is have the Horizon Drive discussion before we enter any more action items. Okay, and then are there any other director comments
No.
outside of the committee report stuff? I do have a report on a meeting I attended today, and I don't know if it would be appropriate to comment now or wait until the end of the meeting, but I will just say that you're a priority, Horizon Drive. We went to a meeting about another part of the valley, but right now we want to make sure that we get the Horizon Drive stuff done and done correctly before we take on any other projects. So anyway, that's where I'm at. Anybody else have any meetings that they want to report on?
No.
Directors? And then in the, we can move on then from director comments to public comments. These are comments from anyone that is here for something that is not on this agenda. So if you're here for something to do with Horizon Drive or any other item on the agenda, this is not the time to say anything, but if you would like to make a public comment, you may. Yes, sir.
Gary Waples, as you know, you just whetted our appetite about talking about another meeting that may impact or may have something to do with sewer systems?
It's not on the agenda, but I think that my main point is when we talk about changing sphere of influence or annexing or dealing with any other special treatment areas, my personal philosophy right now is we're in the middle of Horizon Drive, and that is our priority. And if somebody else comes for help, we will certainly direct them to the appropriate place. We will help them if we can. But right now, we're working on Horizon Drive.
I understand that, but could this other sphere of influence, annexation, help us by providing more people involved in wanting to get sewer and making it a bigger project or a side project that is beneficial to speed things up?
No.
Okay.
It could slow things down, however. So,
Never mind.
yeah.
I was gonna ask you,
But,
you
yeah,
would ask that question again after she gave me that answer.
But that's all when, talking about changing any sphere of influence in the valley. I don't know if you guys remember 4 or 5 years ago, there was an effort to include Los Olivos in our sphere of influence. And it was a lot of time, money, effort, and it has to come from the people. It can't just be because somebody calls a meeting that they want this area dealt with. The people in the community need to be the ones, just as you're coming here, you're interested in this information. So that's where I'm focused right now. So that if I get called to a meeting saying that, Bill in Las Cruces wants a sewer line, we will direct him to the appropriate authorities, but I don't want to spend a lot of time right now until we complete this project started in 1995. So but yes, if there's any opportunity to make things go faster and be less expensive, I think that this board and staff are for that. Okay, so any other public comments? Then we shall move on to the consent agenda, which is going to be the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting, approval of minutes from special meeting, and a changing from our previous board member to our new appointed by the board member, Frank Redfern. I think you were appointed in October. This is probably your third meeting. And then we're going to remove the item E from the consent agenda. So, does anyone on the board have any comments or questions about the minutes?
I'll make the motion that we accept them as written. The approval of minutes of the regular meeting, November 20th, 2019, and approval of minutes of the special meeting of December 6th, 2019.
Okay, and
I'll second that.
so right now, we're just approving the minutes, not everything on the consent
Yeah,
agenda.
I mean, that's,
Can we do that?
these are all
We have
on
to
the,
do the
you
whole
can
thing?
Yes, we can
approve
do it
all
all
the
at
consent
once.
agenda items by one motion, which is the reason for having it set up that way. So that would be A, B, C, and D.
Which would include Wendy's dashboard and then also the switch of the bank account, Mr. Redford being added.
So if you wanted that, you would say the consent agenda as presented, except for removing item B.
Do any of the directors have any comments on any of the dashboard report? No? I don't think I do either. Okay, I'll amend my motion then to approve all of the consent agenda items 6A, B, C, and D for approval.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Director Beard has seconded, so
Okay, we
Wendy?
have a motion by Director Mueller and a second by Director Beard to approve the consent agenda items A, B, C, and D. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Redfern?
Yes.
Director Beard?
Yes.
Director Jones?
Yes.
Director Mueller?
Yes?
Director Deambra?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, now before we go to our action items on the agenda, I would like to hear from our committee. We have had our committee, Mr. Redford, and Directors Redford and Beard have been working together on the Horizon Drive situation to see how best to move forward. So I'll turn it over to you guys.
You went out and talked to all of them, we had a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, you probably remember me banging on your doors, but we did have a lot of interest in having sewer that most of the homeowners are interested. There's probably 5 or 6 that were not, but that also included Cali Pico, and I think there was 6 residents that I could not reach either because of gates or nobody was home. But we had a lot of interest, really.
I really commend your effort in doing that. Just, sometimes nothing like just hitting the ground and doing it, so that's very good.
Yeah.
And have you guys had an opportunity to discuss?
No, we have not had
Okay.
an opportunity to discuss it, so, but I think we kind of see eye to eye on what we need to do with it and try to move forward.
So our committee has definitely established that there is more than enough interest.
Yeah.
And so now it's all about how we are going to do it. So then that gets down to a financial side of things. Jeff, do you have anything that you would like to add to the
I
committee?
submitted it at the
report?
last board meeting with our funding options are still available. I know that, well, I won't take it away from Director Beard, but we reached out to RDA too, that's later on your agenda.
Yeah.
But if you'd like to say more about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, we did, I had found a possible grant or something, it might be a possible grant or loan. We'll address it later in there. I'm not sure we're qualified for the grant, but we can get loans through RDA for it.
And we also have loans available through our agency, correct?
Right.
So we have multiple funding sources, so the big question is going to be, you're looking a little perplexed there. I mean, we as homeowners have different things they can do to pay for whichever direction we go.
Yeah, but we have to finance our part.
Right, that's why I
Yes,
referenced
yes.
back to the
Yeah.
last one, the options that were provided at that time.
Right,
The only additional one is the RDA one that we'll be looking into.
yeah.
Okay, well, I'd like to hear from the homeowners what questions they have at this point.
Mr. Redford, you said you had, not necessarily an overwhelming positive response, and you also.
Not overwhelming, there's definitely more people that are interested than are not interested in it.
Okay, but you said you didn't get to talk to like 8 people?
6?
I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I didn't wanna make them smaller than they were.
Yeah.
But, it's between 5 and 7 people I wasn't able to talk to, but it also includes Cali Pico. There's one residence on Refugio, and there's two residences behind, Horizon Drive.
Okay. I was just curious, what percentage? I mean, you say
Right,
60%?
we have those sheets,
That was
which I handed into you.
Yeah, everybody, but I think 4 houses on Horizon are interested in sewer, and all the ones on Cali Pico did not want sewer.
They did not. They're not affected?
What?
They're not affected by this?
Apparently not.
Not yet.
Not yet.
If anything fails,
So
they will be.
if I understand you correctly, you said everybody on Horizon Drive except 4 people?
Everybody on Horizon?
Is that what you said, except for?
I'd have to go look at it.
But did you just say except for 4 people?
He wasn't able to reach like 4 residents on
Okay, so there's
Horizon.
only 18 houses on Horizon Drive. So if he reached everybody except for 4 people, that's more than 50% of the
Right.
people.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely more than 50% interested in
And that's
sewer.
what I've been saying, it's more than 50%.
Yeah.
And I think, Councilman Beard, you said if you would be happy if we had at least 50%?
Yeah, I would be happy if we had 50%. That would give us a good jump start and the motivation to
Well,
move
that
forward.
says
with it.
they're interested. It
Yes.
doesn't say they wanna hook
Right.
up today.
Right,
Because
Yeah.
they have interest in doing it, they know that it's
Right.
probably coming down the pipe.
yeah.
The reality is the cost, when you see it in front of you, then those numbers will be decisive.
Right.
And that will get it done.
We could have
Based
70%
on the
people
fact
saying
of
they're.
cost.
Yeah. We could have 70 people saying they're interested today and they see what it costs, then we'll have 30.
Or 10, yeah.
I think even if we had, 30 to 40% interest, we'd still want to move forward with this project, or I would.
Where are we,
Right.
Jeff, with the cost? You have the presentation.
Those were submitted last month as well, so the numbers haven't changed there. Everyone's in possession of those were provided at the November meeting.
Okay, and when I looked at that cost, those costs, I would like the board to look a little closer. We had $10,000 for traffic control on a cul-de-sac. I mean, to me, that's, who we kidding? We need to have a sharp pencil here,
Yeah.
okay? And if it was my street, I'd have a real sharp pencil, and we're trying to represent you guys to keep the cost down, and I see, the first thing that popped was that number, so I would like us to get some competitive numbers.
From other engineering firms?
Of course.
We only have a contract right now.
But we don't need a contract, do we, to go to an engineering firm and get a number?
If you remember, you just pulled the engineering firm from the consent agenda, so. the board-
Irrelevant, that's irrelevant. Can you not get on the phone and talk to an engineering firm and say, we need a bid, would you be interested? I do stuff like that all the time for
Well,
sales.
I can garner they're interested, yes, but can I get another number from them without the board approving it? No.
Well,
Right.
do we agree we would like to get some competitive bids before we just give it to one engineering firm? I sure wouldn't buy anything without checking costs and comparing. What is the consensus here?
I think we need to be on a timeline where we don't just keep investigating, but I don't want to jump into the first thing that we see either. So I'm interested in what you think because you're here. these are your homes. So I think
The
that,
prudent thing to do is exactly what he's saying, is the cost. I mean, you know yourself, if you're gonna do something at your home, you just don't call up the highest priced guy, one guy, you're gonna check around, even if it's repairing your car
Right.
or doing anything to your home, you're gonna see what it's gonna cost and see if it fits within your budget. I think that's just the prudent thing to do.
yeah, it's hard to make an
So
argument.
aren't we talking about two different things?
I kind of think we are, because I think that maybe we need to have a little recap of, first off, as we just saw, I don't have the authority to engage another engineering firm. I can call them and see if they're interested.
We'll give you the authority.
But then you need to realize that with what we're talking about, all of that, as I pointed out at the last meeting, environmental health services paid for quite a bit of it. There was $140,000 saved. The current engineering firm is just not gonna hand it over. You're gonna pay for it to be re-engineered through another engineering firm.
Well, they can look at it, and if it costs us a little more, I'll feel more comfortable, I'm certain you people will, knowing that we did our due diligence, we compared a couple of things, and this was the best deal. I just don't, when I saw $10,000 there, the red flag went up, okay? That's bogus in my opinion. There's not $10,000 worth of manpower to sit there on a cul-de-sac. So if I saw that, the first thing I looked at, that raised a red flag. If I'd spent some time looking at it, I could probably find a lot more. So that told me I should pursue an alternative for them, for us. That's what we're here for, is to make sure we do a good job for them and that they're in sync with us, that they know we did everything we could to keep the costs as low as possible. I don't see why that's a big deal with an engineering firm or not. You know, these guys are as hungry as everybody else out there. They want to work. Why is it such a task to get somebody on board and get a bid?
Well, I'm sensing some resistance, and when we did this ad hoc committee, part of it was to establish the interest, but part of it was to also explore the financial angle. So maybe we should continue with the committee doing some independent research on what resources the committee can come up with and what you can find as far as getting multiple bids when you're dealing with a municipal. Yes, Mr. Battles.
When we're talking about bids, the engineer, his task was to come up with an estimate as to what it might cost. You won't know what it's gonna cost until you go out to bid and you get bids.
From the contractor who's gonna do the work.
Yeah, and so, at this point, as I understand it, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, the engineers just provided an estimate as to what a project like this would cost, or this particular project will cost. And you're not gonna bring the cost down by getting multiple estimates. You might have a better idea as to what it's like.
By getting multiple engineers.
Yeah, it's multiple
No,
engineers.
I know what you're saying.
You want the competitive bids on this project, and you have to award to the lowest responsible bidder. So you'll get the lowest price for this project that the market can give you, because it will be competitive bidding. So we're just working for planning purposes off this estimate that has been developed, and it might be a little high because of or it might be off in the traffic control area, it might be off in other areas as well, but it gives you some estimate of what the project is going to cost, and you can use that as in your planning to say, do we want to go forward with this project? We'll have to go out to bid. How much interest is there? What kind of threshold do we want to see? All of those other things. But again, if you get multiple estimates from multiple engineers, that won't have an effect.
No, you made that clear.
Okay.
I think, I was a little confused by
We got
the
the
moral
engi-
thing. So we've got the engineering report.
We get competitive bids now.
Yes.
Well, not yet until you don't do
Right,
that until
until-
you've approved the project. That's one
Right.
of the last things you do in the process is get the competitive bids after you've decided to go forward. You have your, the financing lined up. You go out to bid, say, we're gonna do this project. When the bids come in, you award the contract and proceed.
I do this all the time. This is not an uncommon practice to get a bid of what, they'll look at the engineering firm and they'll drive there and say, yeah, we can do it plus or minus X dollars. That's not holding anybody to a commitment, but that gives us more information on cost. And at that point, I think they're gonna know within a few $1,000s, hopefully, what it's gonna cost. And they're gonna be zeroing in on getting it done. Okay, we know it's gonna be somewhere between X and X dollars, let's go for it. And at that time, I think we'd be prudent to get it, the financing in line. It ultimately is you folks, what you're willing to pay, and what I'm trying to do is to get you as much information on cost as quickly as possible and as accurately as possible, before we go jumping in and doing everything else, so everybody's on the same playing field.
Also, Bob, I think that the other thing is that, yes, we have to get bids, but it's a little, putting a little, the horse before the cart. I mean, you know, the residents have said basically in their statements, they would prefer a gravity feed system.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think that's even
So
questionable.
I think what we need to do is decide whether we're gonna move forward, and if we do, what's our next step? And I think our next step is, we've gotten a engineer's bid, what we need to do is take the next step and say, okay, financing, I think, is the next step, correct, Jeff?
Well, what I'm hearing here is I think we need to kind of come back and have a little conversation about and understand public contract bidding and
Yeah.
how that works.
Right.
I mean, because it's not like
It's not like.
your homeowner is not what you would do every day. There's a whole set of laws and procedures. that
That's
you
fine,
follow.
but that doesn't
Um,
eliminate, Jeff, that doesn't eliminate us from doing our due diligence and getting the contractors out there and say, yeah, it looks like we could do it within this range of costs. So then we know more. Nobody's being held and nobody's violating any law to get a contractor to go out there and look and give their opinion on what they would think it would cost.
Well-
They're the ones doing the work. The engineer's sitting in the office, you know, he's penciling it all out. But if we get guys out there and it's not illegal, I can't see how it could possibly be illegal for us to call, hey, this is the project we're looking at, these are the information we have, what do you think something like this would cost? Boom. There's the guys who are putting their hands in the ground to do it. They're gonna be a lot closer in cost, in actuality, than the engineering firm. And if we get 3 or 2 or even 2, at least 2, then we know closer what that's gonna cost them. And then we can come back, we give you the range, then we find out truthfully at that point, how many people are willing to jump in the water, if you will, okay? Yeah, put me in, I understand the cost is gonna be somewhere. Right now, we're just juggling, we have no idea. And I wanna move it forward as quickly as possible. You guys have been waiting a long time. And you don't wanna cut through some of the red tape. I don't think the format is necessary to get some contractors to give us an idea. You know, you don't call a doctor to give you an idea how much a room addition is. And that's basically what the engineers from, yeah, this is what it costs. I want the guys who are gonna put it in to participate and say, hey, you know, you're looking at X dollars. So then we all know, we all have the same information.
Okay,
So
but there is
Jeff,
a
do we have to put it
process.
out for an RFP? Basically?
Well, with what Bob's proposing, that's more of a design build type of thing. I don't know, I mean,
Yeah.
that, we need something like that, because we,
Why could you not get on the phone and call some contractors who do this kind of work and say, we have a project coming up, we'd like to get your input on what you think it would cost, we're gonna possibly give them a time frame at such and such a time, we're gonna have, put it out to bid, we would like you to have a preliminary look at it. I don't see, I think that's just good government, that's good service to the people that we're serving.
okay, that's.
Why is that a task? Why is that an issue?
Well, right now, we don't even have finalized plans, so what am I gonna be asking them to bid on?
We have the engineering report.
Systems.
The what?
You've got options for systems, that's a start right
Right.
there.
Yeah.
You've already started.
You're losing me. We have the engineering report to put sewers down Horizon. Do we agree with that, folks? What is the problem here? We take that engineering report, we have a contractor, he can look at it, he doesn't have to look at it, he can give us a ballpark figure. We're getting closer to getting down to the nuts and bolts is where we need to be to get you guys what you need. And I think it's just prudent that we get the people who are gonna be digging the holes out there to look at it. I don't think we need to have a contract with them. You know, they may be busy, they may not be able to do it for 2 or 3 weeks, that's fine. Whatever it takes, I would like to get it forward to the point where you guys know what it's gonna cost for the gravity feed system. The other thing, I think that's a joke myself, okay? I would just like you guys to get all the facts. And I think, you've been here, you've been real diligent and passionate about what you need. I want to get it done, okay? And I think the best way to do it is to find out, bring those numbers down, so we know the reality of what it'll be. We'll put it in a plan and present it to you, and those would be the best numbers we have. Of course, we're not going to be held to it because we didn't make the numbers up. But at that point, then we know the numbers are somewhere close that we're going to be needing funding for, and what you're going to be able to spend from your budgets on how you want to proceed. If you do want to hook up, you want to sign up, but you don't want to hook up, or you want nothing to do with it. Does that make sense?
I am interested in do you have any things that you think are specific challenges to doing this, Mr. Redfern?
Challenges as far as,
Like, are you a person, you've spent a lot of time in the valley, you understand the collection system, so I see this as an investment that we as a district need to make. Is there
I agree.
anything, okay, so I'm interested in
No.
your take on it. You're new, but you bring a lot of experience
Right.
to the board.
I think that it would be a big improvement, and as far as increasing service, it's highly beneficial because it runs out to Refugio, where we can then pick up other people that are in the same problem. So, to me, I think we're crazy not to look at doing this, even if you only have 20%, because you have so many people on Stadium that need sewer. They're not going to make it.
I agree. I think that on our
That's
next
not-
agenda, we should be prepared to take action because we have spent the last several months listening to you, getting the information we need. I think that we need to be prepared next month to take action
On costs.
take action on that we agree that we need to put a main line in there.
I don't think that's
Isn't
debatable.
that the first thing that you would think that we would need to do is the board agrees that we are going to put the main line in, and then these people will then have an opportunity to hook up. That's where I see where we're at.
I don't have a big debate with that. I want to get them the numbers, okay? I don't want them to say, yeah, I love it, and then they find out it's too expensive, then nobody wants it, and then we're on the hook for a sewer that has 3 or 4 people on it. That's not cost effective, and we're the stewards of the community's money, okay? That's what this whole thing was about getting. And the only way we're gonna find out just how successful this will be on Horizon is if we get some fairly close numbers, okay? We find out what it's gonna cost. You don't go shopping anywhere for anything without having an idea what it costs at Costco or at Best Buy. You need to know. You feel comfortable once you know when you made a decision. And I want to do that here for everybody's sake, okay?
So basically, is it a consensus of the board to direct staff to move forward with getting some hard numbers for?
Hard numbers is a hard word.
Well, yeah.
Getting some contractors out there and
Getting
saying,
some
we're looking
estimates.
X dollars.
Right.
I think that's a prudent thing to do, and if all of us here would do it individually for any project we did at our home. And this is a project that's going to last many, many years, and I don't want to shortchange. I want to do it right, but I want it done that we know we got the best value for the community and we got the best value for our constituents, which are the community, but for you folks. Because ultimately, you're the ones paying for it. So I just want to make sure you guys get the biggest bang for your buck, and I want this board to feel the same way, that we look at 2 or 3 of this, and this is the way we're going.
Mrs. Wooten had a comment?
Yes, I just have a couple of comments. One is absolutely people want to know how much it's going to cost. There are certain people that live on fixed incomes on the street, and they're very concerned about it. So, of course, that's just a very prudent thing. Now, one of the first meetings that happened, not first, but one of them in the past few months, there was a comment made that the sewer line did not go down Fufio Road because of some obstacles. And now, the comments are, it'd be great to be able to bring it down. So what are the obstacles on Refugio?
Oh, sorry, gas lines were the main obstacle that I remember being
Okay.
told. And that we talked a little bit about, is it possible to go underneath Refugio, beneath the pavement, not on the shoulder? And there were some problems with that. But we do need to somehow serve the houses that were annexed in. So if that is going to be some other location other than actually on Refugio, they just put the pipe in at the Santa Cota. I don't know if, that is related to this.
And that's very important to bring up. You no longer have a permit to be in the Caltrans, to do any construction. So that option, we would have to resubmit all the plans and go through the whole process again. So you have what you have at the moment. If the board would like to give direction to come up with another set of plans and work with, or even the same set of plans and work with Caltrans, we could do that. But we no longer have the ability to go west from the San Jacoto location along Caltrans. That permit has expired.
And, okay,
Because we've had that for 3 years, and we've been talking about this for 3 years, and now it's expired, so.
I remember when we were talking about it, we'll have to check the minutes, but that as long as we were taking action, that could be extended.
It has been extended twice, and it expired October, so, I mean, San Jacoto got their stuff done and got out of Caltrans right away. That permit has expired, we would have to go through the process of submitting a new one. We could use the same plans, but once again, that process takes some time.
That is in conflict with my memory, but,
We will happily
We'll
provide
check,
you
yes.
with the permit that expired and provide.
no,
you
I
with
remember
minutes.
talking about, it's going to expire, well, can we extend it as long as we demonstrate that we're actively pursuing this? So,
They gave us a drop dead, and we got out of it. We gave that to San Jacoto, that if you want to hook up this line, and that's what just transpired. They did that,
Okay.
so.
So we need to have, give the.
So right now, we are heading north, that's only, and we still need to attain easements there, but we no longer have a Caltrans permit to install the sewer line. We would have to apply for a new.
This is the first I've heard of this.
me
No, it
too.
is not the first you've heard of it.
Well, it's the first I've heard it since I've been on the board, sir.
I remember it was brought up at one of the meetings. Yeah.
And do you remember what the resolution or outcome was? That's
Well,
why I'm so glad
I
we're
know-
recording
I
this.
know it was, I remember it saying that they were going to expire if we didn't move forward with it.
And we said, we're moving
Forward
forward,
with
so
it,
will
yeah.
this qualify? And yes, it wasn't like,
Yeah.
well, no, that you got
Yeah.
12 days, or this is not
Yeah.
a choice. But
I will
whatever,
happily provide you with all that, because,
Yeah.
we've had it for over 3 years.
So-
We were ready to go 2 years ago, and it's drawn out, so I will bring that back at the next board meeting.
okay.
Just because, our only option is to go north right now. And back to this other, I would like legal counsel to weigh in, because I have never gone about it as way as Director Deanne would talk about. I'm used to using the engineer's estimate of probable cost and going forward with that. And building off of that, though, back to what we have delivered several times with the options, which option are you going to choose to finance it? Because I think then that totally affects what plans you need, what bidding procedures you follow.
That, Jeff, the bottom line is cost.
Yes, and each
Okay?
one of those have different
And,
costs.
and that number is gonna make or break Horizon.
So which
So-
one of those would you like to go with?
Well, what I'd like to do is, let's just banter back and forth with this. I'd like to get some people out there who are the specialists, like I said, who are gonna dig the holes. And we don't have to contract with them, make a phone call. You should know all these people. This is your forte, as far as I'm concerned. You should know these people who are in the field to say, hey, give me some numbers. We'd like to do this. Give us a ballpark figure. We're not holding anybody hostage to the numbers. But we have then done some due diligence on costs without, with the engineering report. They want to know. I want to know. And I think if we have that, then they're ready to jump on board.
Bob, does this sound like something that could be a workshop? Because I do remember that Jeff prepared the options. I can't remember if there were 4 or 5. There were multiple options, 5.
For what?
For how we are going to finance our responsibility, because the district pays for the main line. The residents pay to hook into that.
Well, I'm talking about them, their costs, not the district's
it's-
But the
costs.
district has a cost, and we need to determine how we are paying for the main line. But this sounds like something that we could all benefit from a workshop and have you talk about hashing it out, I think that's what we need to do, and between now and January, and be prepared to act. After we get thorough information, and maybe some of the things that you're talking about could be part of that special meeting. Get some other answers and have
Well,
presentations.
To me, it's just going more down the road, more down. This started back in September. I just don't understand why it's so difficult for management to contact people that you do work with daily and get some numbers to compare it with the engineering firm, you know?
I'm happy to do that, but just like, for instance, this evening, we have another option that's coming before the board on the very financing. Each one of them, this is the feds, so now you've opened up a whole other set of circumstances that could come with it. Might be something you don't want, might be something you do want at 2%, but they have their own set of not recommendations, but requirements as you proceed forward. That's why you see it in front of you this evening, because we can't even talk to them until the board approves someone to talk to them. So each one of those options that we've put forth has different criteria that we need to meet. I'm happy to call everybody and spitball it,
I'm not talking
but-
about the options, I'm talking about the cost. Once we know the cost, then we look at the options, say, gee, we can finance 2% here, we can carry back paper, we can do this, we can do that. The bottom line is, if I'm not, you're here tonight to find out what it's gonna cost you. Is that a fair statement?
That is everyone's concern.
Okay.
There's not one person on the street who would say cost does not matter.
And that's what I'm trying to zero in on,
Yes.
because then you're gonna,
That's been the issue all along. And that's why when this flexi system, you know, the only reason that I have been able to ascertain is that people saw the cost as being so much lower. Not that they even thought a flexi system was worth anything. They just said, oh my gosh, we can do that for $7,500 when it would cost us $30,000 to do the sewer line. Cost is always the number one.
Right.
okay, so can we do something here where we get a couple of ballpark figures, so you know, you'll be more informed, we'll be more informed. We'll know if our engineering firm was on the money, or he was out in right field, or he hit a grand slam. I would just like you to know before we go any farther. Give you a basic number. You have no number as of tonight, right?
So Jeff, maybe you can kind of walk me through the process, because I'm a little confused. So when you go out to ask somebody for a quote, and you don't have a full set of plans, do you just tell somebody, well, it's about this far, and it's about this far deep, and we're using 4-inch line, and we get a number, or do we
Yeah, 'cause-
come up with a full-blown
Good
engineering
question. To
plan?
back it up, first off, anything over $25,000, we have to put out to competitive bid. You know, then there's on top of the different things with it. With what you're asking, yes, as we move forward to actual bid documents and stuff, we would have geotech stuff to put in there. So that once again, they would know if there's a likelihood of groundwater, if there's granted, we have all the arbitrary stuff. Yes, everyone's ran into it and stuff, but as you know, until we actually put that in writing and the engineer signs off on it and transfer that liability to the contractor, you know, it's not there. And exactly the same way, here's the manholes, here how deep they're gonna be. Because as we've seen, each manhole's $10,000, $12,000 a piece.
Okay.
You know, is it one that, you know, I'm all for eliminating manholes and going 600 foot between them. But yeah, I don't know. And we don't even have the easements yet, so.
But we would typically have the design done, in other words, a manhole at this exact location, this one, and it's constructed a certain way, and all of those plans would be detailed out before we
With
get
all the design
So
specifications.
really, the only quote you could get right now would be like time and material, rough ballpark. Somebody just sort of pulling a number out, and they wouldn't necessarily give it to you in writing, right? I mean, they'd just whisper it in your ear.
We have it here. Did we not
No,
have it?
that's an
We-
engineering estimate.
Well, that was
That's
the
not a-
engineering estimate. That's
Right.
the
Is that
start.
plans though? Is that an actual plan? That
Well, he'd
estimate
have
doesn't-
to have a plan to come up with an estimate, would he not?
Well, this is where we get into the design part of it, that, you know, back to, no one's landed on where we're going, what we're doing, or which financing mechanism we want with it. So we would if we want to go to bid but you need to choose which one of these to get to those bid documents. Because yes, a complete set of plans for someone to bid on, it gets expensive.
I think
Happily
what
do
we're
that.
looking at is going through, wasn't we were gonna go through San Dakota or through the easement? And then get the easements?
Well, we still need to get the easements. So
Right, yeah.
one of the first parts with this, if you want to get that, is that, you know, we already have that, we need to now tune that up and say, here is our alignment, and contract with someone or that. And I guess that's where you need to tell staff. Would you like staff to go out there and talk to the homeowners? Would you like staff to contract with Hamner and Jewel again? Our board members of the committee want to go out there and attain the easements? This whole easement process and negotiation. So we need to do that step next to really see if we're gonna get there. Or we're back to, no, we need to go submit another set of plans to
Okay.
go
I
up
think
Caltrans.
I want to make a motion for staff to go out and start to get the easements for this and start the process.
But I mean, back to, we need
Yeah.
that, you know, as an item to probably bid out, because I don't have one engineering for. But yes, we can do that, but you want us to acquire the easements as opposed to the easement firm.
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
I am
Well, because you get into
interested.
negotiations over the cost of it, and, because the bottom line that everyone forgets is we can only pay fair market value, whatever it's appraised for,
Right.
you know? I think that's important to, sometimes people then think that it's worth a lot more, and you could be shut down over that.
Well, that's an
Right. I mean,
easement
we
that
can't-
they're gonna end up paying.
If
Is
we
that
can't
not-
get the easement through there, then we have to go another route, but I think the first step is get the easements through the property.
Hold on, let's,
I have a question though.
Yes.
Are we the first street to need an easement, or are we the first street to need a sewer? Hasn't this been done before? Aren't there other,
Yeah.
I mean, why?
The
is
street
it-
does not need the easement, the street is part of,
To
the
get
county.
an easement, to get
where
an
it's currently
easement to
located,
the street.
there are the minimum of 2 private parcels, actually 3 private parcels between that street and here.
I understand that. My question is, have you not dealt with easements before?
I've dealt extensively with easements, so I don't
Then-
think that's
Why is
it,
it so hard?
because I need approval
Has
from the
staff-
board
Has
to
staff
expend
done
those monies.
before, or has the board done that, or contract? Who's done those easement conversations in the past?
All the above, but that was with a different board, but yes. We had those lined up before, you have a different board now, we're changing that, and I'm asking this board to do that. That's why a lot of that stuff got,
You don't have any guidelines or processes on that? Okay, that's fine. I'm just.
well, until I have an approval,
To not have
we've had $500,000 sitting there for the last 4 years to do this project. I can give you the whole history of how we got there. So yes, it was planned out, there was the environmental health service plan put together, laid out where all these gravity lines were gonna be. You know, so we have a comprehensive idea of where we need to put the gravity. And then with the Golden Inn, that provided us the mechanism to get, and we got underneath the highway. You know, that was when we acquired. We began that process. And then 2 years ago, we had to change the majority of the board, and we sit here with a different majority of the board, and I'm waiting on them to
This is
reapprove
incorrect.
that.
This is incorrect. You were elected, you took office a year ago, not 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was elected, and this is, you know, if you want to bring that stuff up, it's because I believe that the community saw people being very aggressive with development and wanted people that they knew cared about them, their families, and their homes, and wanted to be a little more connected. So this is a new board majority as of a year tonight, not 2 years. And this problem goes back to 1995, and rather than assigning blame and finger pointing, we would like to move forward, and we would like to move forward
Well, then I put an
together.
agenda item on there to approve that, because we had Hammer and Jewel out there with the plans acquiring easements. And I can timeline it all you want. The process stopped. We were dusting it off, and here we start again anew. You know,
I
so,
thought
Let the
you-
process
okay.
stop, Jeff. Why do you, as a district manager of this year, why do you let the process stop?
Because I don't
Why
have approval from the board.
don't you get on the
We're
board,
I don't-
on the board
pushing it
and
on us.
say,
Yes.
we need to do something?
no, I'm sorry, it's not. I don't have that authority. I would happily do that,
Jeff, I take issue to that.
I do too. We
Okay, you push it.
authorize it then, and I will
Well, we
give that.
Well, I think we should
But
take
I'm
maybe a
just
minute
made
of
a
time
motion
out.
to authorize.
But it's back to then, do I need an agenda item for it? Because I haven't.
You need the authorization is what the board is willing to do that, but we want you to execute it, okay? We don't want you to spin and juggle, I want you to execute it, they're here, they got better things to do with their life. That's your responsibility, sir. And as this board, as a member of this board, I want you to execute what you state, okay?
Well-
I want you to take care of these people, that's your obligation, that's our obligation, okay? They would like you to do something, the board's given you Carte blanche.
Bob, we just had, I brought all that back, and you were sitting here wanting to argue about traffic control. There is a number in front of you of what that's going to cost. If you would like to pick one of these options and move forward, we would happily do that.
I'd like,
Okay.
Okay, just a second, whatever we do, we need to have confidence in each other, work together, and trust each other. I would like to hear what you have to say, David, but I want to get back to that. We're a community, we live
We're
together.
looking at, I believe we're looking at the community wants the gravity feed line. That's the option that we're looking at. My motion, I'm trying to make a motion to move forward with the gravity feed line. Let's get, I'm asking you for the process so that.
Well,
we
and
can-
I'm asking a lawyer for it, because staff put this on as agenda item, and right now it's just a committee report, so.
put what on the agenda item that's committee report?
If I can comment, I think a lot of what we're wrestling with here is the process.
Right.
And which steps do you take in which order.
Right.
And I think it would be helpful to just spell all that out for the board.
Right.
And I could do that in a very rough fashion here. It would take a little bit of thought to present it in a more organized fashion. But, there are preliminary considerations that you have here.
Right.
You've, first determined, is there a need for sewer on Horizon? And you've made
That's
that
done.
determination. And then you determine, okay, is there support in the community to pay for that? That's part of what the
Okay,
committee has been
I
looking
think we're
at.
past
Yes.
that.
Yeah, and you've asked the committee to also make a recommendation regarding what level of support should the district require as a matter of policy going forward and for this project before the district will move forward with a project like this, because it has to recover its costs from the residents, and that is based on how much support you have. So I don't think you have a percentage recommendation, and you haven't adopted a policy on that yet, but what I'm hearing is that there's a sufficiently high level of support in this case for the committee to recommend that you clear that hurdle and you would move forward based on the level of support that you've determined to exist.
Right.
So another thing that you need to determine is how much it's going to cost. And the way a public agency generally does that is to hire an engineering firm to come up with a preliminary design and then do an engineer's estimate of cost based on that preliminary design. You've done that. And you've got a number. One of the concerns with that number is that it's got a high figure for traffic control.
Right.
So maybe that comes in lower, but you have an estimate based on a preliminary design. And in my experience, that's the way public agencies essentially always proceed on a project. They get an engineer's estimate, knowing that there hasn't been a final design yet, and knowing that the actual cost of the project can't be known until you go out to competitive bids and you see what kind of bids you receive. I've never seen a situation where you take preliminary designs and ask for contractors to do an estimate based on that. The design is pretty preliminary, and you generally want to rely on the engineer for that. There's no reason you couldn't get a second engineering report, and there's no reason you couldn't do as you suggest. I've just never seen that done before, and I don't know that you get a very accurate number because the design is at a preliminary level. And I would expect that contractors are not going to want to put a lot of work into calculating a number if it hasn't even gone out to bid yet.
Right.
But anyway, that's part of the process. You can do that. I just haven't seen it done before, and I don't know whether it would give you a better number than you've got. And again, we're only talking about an estimate. It's not going to save it's not going to lower the cost of the project to get more estimates regarding what it's ultimately going to cost. So when and then you have, I don't remember, I already said this, but then you determine, is there financing available? Do you have options for financing this project? And you don't have to necessarily, at that point, determine, yes, this is the financing option that we're going to pursue. You can defer that somewhat, but it's important to know whether you're going to have the money to go forward. So those are all some fairly preliminary considerations, and I think the district has been struggling with, how do we address all of those issues, and in what order do we address them? But once you've addressed all those points, you make a decision, yes, we're going to proceed with this project. And at that point, you need to authorize environmental review, you need to go through the permit process, you need to have a final design done, you have bid documents prepared, and those bid documents are based on the final design. It's got all the details regarding the project in there, and then by law, as Jeff mentioned, you're required to go out to bid, and then the bids all come in, sealed bids on a certain date, you open them, and then you're required to award the project, if you award it at all, to the lowest responsible bidder, so that the public gets the lowest possible price. if the bids come in and the project costs too much, you don't have to approve the project, just say, oh boy, this is way higher than we expected, it's way higher than the engineer's estimate, it's way higher than the people on Horizon, you know, are willing to pay. We did our best, but we can't go forward. If you award, if the cost, if the lowest bid is in line with what you were expecting, you award the contract and you direct the contractor to proceed. And you know, make sure you have your financing available and all that so you can pay for it. So that's an overview of the process. I don't know how helpful that is. We could, you know, prepare a formal document that identifies all of these steps, and there's things I've missed, and I might not have
I
exactly the right
think
order.
sitting here hashing it out, I understand what you're saying. I think we need to, if we're allowed to at this meeting because it's on the agenda, direct staff to move it forward to the next step.
Okay,
And how should we word that?
yeah, and so it's a little bit difficult to identify exactly what is the next step here, having them not all lined out like that, but a question is, do you want to do as Director DeAmbra suggests, have sort of a reality check by having some contractors look at it to see if they're going to give you a lower number or a different number? Would you feel more confident moving forward?
I actually kind of
if you
think,
had that- if you
when
had
we
that
put it out to
kind
bid, that's gonna wash it anyway. I mean, it's gonna get us, I understand. I think we should move forward to the next step and continue to push this forward. We're gonna get the lowest bid anyway.
If we don't have our permission to use property.
Right.
Yeah. Have a metal block on what that is,
Easement.
easement. Why don't, the first thing we need is those easements.
Easements,
As soon as we have that, we have a route
Right.
to go.
Right.
We can't get an easement here, so we have to get one here. Now we know we're going here. That gives us a general run of what it's gonna cost. It's gonna cost money to get those easements. So, but we have the interest to do the job. We need to get the easements done so that they can make a plan. We don't
Right.
have easements, we need easements.
Gary, did you have something?
I do have a question though. When you put this out for bid, are you putting out the main sewer line for bid or the taps also? My tap may be different than someone else's tap.
Just
Do
your
I have
property
to
line.
go out for bid on that myself?
Yeah, you normally,
So
well, there are
what
different.
you're talking about, Bob, I think was what it's gonna cost me.
No. You get a stub on your property from the main.
Right.
For you to, then it's your responsibility to abandon your system and provide the line to the stub. That's on you. That has nothing to do, when we're talking the numbers here, we're talking to lay the main line down the street and stub each property out.
But see, that estimate is the one I'm most interested in. Is what is it gonna cost me to hook up to your stuff?
Probably 5 to 10 on that, okay, to abandon your system and run a line. That's not an unusual or an exorbitant number for that. But that's why I want you to have all the numbers.
But that's a public, I mean, that's a private thing, we don't give that.
It's not on us, but I want you to know that. I don't want you to come back and say, nobody ever told us. You want to know everything that's going to cost you. Is that a fair statement? You want to know it, right? And that's what I'm trying to, that's what?
It's private.
Yeah, we don't,
But we can't get those bids, they have to get them.
Right.
but we do have an installment payment policy that allows the property owner to finance
Right.
those costs.
I think you want to know the cost associated with hooking up to a sewer.
Right.
The costs we're giving you are the main and a stub at your property. There's an additional cost that's on you, the property owner, for your parcel to abandon your system and plumb it in to the stub. That is something this district is not responsible for. It's on your personal property. Each one will differ depending if you're going to cut through the concrete. But I want you to know everything so you don't come back here and say, boy, these guys this, these guys that. I want to put it all on the table for you. I want to get it as close as possible. So that's something else that's going to come out of your pocket. We have nothing to do with that. Strictly when we give you numbers, it's for the main with the stub out at your parcel.
Okay. Great. May I ask the board if the staff can provide us homeowners with a list of qualified plumbers, whatever they're called? I don't know if it's your regular plumbing guy that fixes your sink, that we can contact to get our own bids for that, after we find out if you're even gonna do this? I don't know anybody.
I know a few.
You could definitely go to just about any plumbing outfit, I'm sure. would be
You
able-
go to a septic company to do it, because they're gonna pump your old
Oh, I know, they
tank,
got it, right,
Right.
okay, they're gonna fill it with rock,
yeah. But are
okay?
they gonna dig my trench?
Yes.
And-
They can,
Yes.
you can get a plumber, you get a contractor.
Depending
you know,
on
there's
the
a lot of
use, you might be able to dig it yourself, you
Yeah.
know?
Good. Yeah, I'm gonna be retired, I guess I could.
Okay.
No.
There's a lot of people who do
So
that.
our next step is to direct staff to move forward.
Yeah, there is still a question.
A question about the financing. So you know that everyone, not everybody, but people will hook on different times, okay, different years. So when you're considering the financing, as council indicated, is it every homeowner is split equally? Or is it that only so many pay up front and then as new ones come on, that's when they start paying? Or how is that?
You're asking prorated, like?
Well, how do you pay? For instance, let's say 5 homes on the street. You put the line in and 5 homes hook up. Do those 5 homes pay? And then the 6th home comes in 5 years later and then we start paying? Or does everybody pay equally at the beginning? And I'm sure this has been done. What I'm asking, I guess what confuses me is a lot of what I'm thinking and asking has to have been done and determined before. Who does easements, who goes out there, is it council?
It does, and back to what you're asking, that's what was
Financing.
provided that, if y'all choose to do an improvement district, you're gonna pay it all up front. If the district funds it, you don't pay until you, I mean, there's a myriad of different options that are gonna come together there. We haven't chosen which one of those 5 that we've given.
Do we need to have a meeting where the public's invited to discuss thoroughly those methods?
Yes,
So that
we do.
they do
Yeah.
clearly
Yeah.
understand?
Well, that was on the
Yes.
list that we sent you out with. I mean, that had all
We're still-
those
Right,
financing.
but,
Oh,
yeah, but I read it and I didn't really understand it, and I
So
don't
we
think
can
it's
happily
clear.
have a
Right,
comprehensive meeting with that.
Right.
You know, but does the board have a preference on any of those?
Well, okay, if you understand certain terminology, you're fine with it. If you don't understand other terminology, you didn't know what it meant. I understand the terminology, okay? I lined through it because I don't have enough information or education yet. And just as a slight example, when you have the people do these bids, I know I read it in September and I even asked somebody and they didn't know. What does a unit LS mean? What does, they have all these SWPPP. What does that mean? There's no legend on these. So we don't know, even if we know some of the lingo, we don't know, what does it mean? So if you tell me it costs $3,000 for one LS, what's an LS SWPPP?
They shouldn't use acronyms without spelling them out first.
Well, a legend, all you need is a legend on it to tell you LS means linear.
Well, all we need to
square,
do is
whatever.
we'll happily do that, but it's back to, each one of those costs a little extra time with that. I'm happy to do that, but it's back to, are we going to do it, when do you want to invest it?
Well, I think we're talking about a form
Yeah,
that
because
was.
we gave that as an estimate, not for the, because we haven't decided on
I
which
think
funding
this is
you want.
important because it has to do with the confidence we have moving forward, if I'm reading what you're saying
Well,
right.
no, it's just information. I'm a detail person, okay? I like to know, I don't just like to see $3,000.
Well, that's an estimate, if we want detail,
It takes you probably,
3,000 for what?
probably 10 seconds to write out what it is. It's not a huge deal. It's not a huge deal, to say, what is LS? And that's a very minor thing, I understand that. However, I'm just asking in the future, when you present documents, can you please put a legend as to what these things mean?
I
Words are
will pass it on to our
fine,
engineers for that, yeah.
but it would be very helpful.
You don't know what an LSS is? It's a left-handed smoke shifter.
If it's- Could be, I can give a lot of names.
I'm going to tell you, I had a contractor to come out to my house and give me an estimate. bring that sewer line from Mission Drive to my home. I want a gravity feed, I want to know. I had a plumber to come and do it. He told me it was $300,000 for me to do that. I said, is that my total cost? He said, well, I can go to Santa Barbara County and I can find out if I can bring that through the property and come over here, you gotta buy some easements. That's what he's talking about. Or he says, we could go to Refugio and bring it down Refugio. But if we come down Refugio, you're gonna have to pay to repave the road in addition to the $300,000. And I said, is that my total cost? He said, yes, and I can do it if I want to pursue. And I said, so, if I pay to bring this down at my expense, what happens to me and if someone else runs out and says, oh, well, Peg's bringing this down, I want to join. How do they pay? How do they connect into that? Then they said, well, the same thing that you're talking about. They set up a price on what it's going to cost every home then to connect. But the price I got from a contractor to bring it into my home was $300,000.
I'm not sure when that was or who did that.
Well,
But I think
that
that's-
says that it's, this one bid is $285, $458. This other bid down here, this other easement, alternative one, says $231, $950. So, I mean, these bids was cheaper than what I got.
Well,
The one over here says the low pressure system is $332, $630.
I think where we need to go is to, as a board, we've all agreed that we want to be able to serve Horizon Drive. And we want to do it in a way that's affordable. So in order to take the next step, I think that's where you were at, Director Beard.
Yes,
So did you want to make a motion?
yes, I'm trying to
Well,
make a
wait a
motion.
minute, we already have a motion on the table to direct staff to get the easements.
Yes,
So did that motion fail? Did
I don't
want
think
to
that's second yet.
I'll second.
So we
And-
have a,
yes, leave it.
As I say, read it and so clearly.
okay, so we have a motion by Director Beard, a second by Director Muller to direct staff to get the easements on Horizon.
When you say get the easements, staff is going to go and try and make the purchases, or what does get the easements include?
We,
Authorization,
The authorization to move forward with the easements.
But are we saying that we are going to, if somebody doesn't want an easement, then we are going to?
We'll have to look at other alternatives then. If someone's not
Jeff
gonna
said they
allow
had a
the easement,
company.
we'll have to look at the other alternatives if they were not gonna allow us to go through their property.
But there's a company that gets easements.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have the flood control that comes through there. So can't you use that and bring it in without having to buy an easement?
This would be a question for the engineer who did the report, perhaps.
Yeah.
Because
That I
we
don't
have
know.
flood control through there. So maybe you could put it, down through that.
We'll happily ask the engineer if you'd like us to.
Yeah.
I thought it was Gary's front yard, there's a flood control, but,
It is.
yeah.
Well, there's a big gutter in the street.
Yeah,
And all that whole land comes from either side and goes down to that point, so.
But we'll happily research that, yeah. I mean, our understanding, that's just, it exists, no one claims it.
So we'll have answers next month.
So Rick, how should this be?
My recommendation, I mean, it's clear that the board wants to move forward in support of this project. My recommendation would be for staff to bring back to you sort of a list of everything that has to happen
Yes.
for the project to move forward, and including decisions that the board needs to make, along with the backup information that the board needs in order to make those decisions. So in the case of financing, we would need to bring back to you those financing options, a description of those financing options, and that'll be a decision that you need to make, how we're gonna finance this. But I think it would be important to spell out all of the steps and a sequence of events. In my view, it's premature to go out and acquire easements if the project hasn't been approved yet. I also think it will be necessary for the district to retain someone like they've used in the past, because it's a complicated process of getting the easements. There's eminent domain process there, and there's a valuation process, and I think it would be a complicated enough undertaking that you want to have that expertise, and it's what they do all the time. So I think that will be one of the things you'll need to do, and, assuming that you can't have property owners just agree to grant the easement and agree upon a price. There is a clearly defined process that the law says you have to go through in order to acquire the easements, and it's helpful to have someone that does that all the time. So that's one of the things that you'll need to make a decision on and give direction on. So again, that would be my recommendation. Let's prepare a comprehensive list of the steps and put them in the right order and identify the decision points and bring you the information, and then we can see how you're gonna tackle all those decisions and move through the process to get to the point where you can go out to bid.
I'm far more comfortable with that than jumping into any one piece of this right now, because I want to have confidence in the information that we have. We're making a big decision, so I think that that's important.
Well, I'm willing to amend my motion to that, to have him follow through, that we get a comprehensive plan to move forward with this project.
Right.
We need a
Okay, so
timeline. with
we're
that.
directing
With
staff,
timeline and direction on, from staff when we need to make decisions and with the backup information.
right, and plenty of time where we as a board can research and make sure that we are informed when we are voting. We want to be fully informed. So if you guys don't mind waiting a little bit longer, we will have that information. And if we may need to have a meeting at some point that's a workshop to go over this, but I like where we're headed right now. Anything else from the committee? Public?
Okay, so for clarification, so you're amending your motion to direct staff to bring back a comprehensive plan and timeline to move forward with the project. Do you want to put a timeline, like for the next meeting?
Yeah, I'd like it by the next
Okay,
meeting.
for
How
the
about
next meeting.
2 weeks? Well, we get some of
You know,
that.
it's a
Our
holiday,
next, it's our next.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay,
It's
are you
sacred.
fine with amending the motion, Frank?
Yes,
Okay, so you'll still second the
I'll
amended
second.
motion? Okay, so we have an amended motion by Director Beer, a second by Director Muller to direct staff to move forward, creating a comprehensive plan and timeline to move forward with the project for the next meeting.
Yes,
Good?
January meeting.
Okay, so
Okay.
we'll do a roll call vote. Director Redfern,
Yes.
Director Beer,
Yes.
Director Jones,
Yes.
Director Muller,
aye.
Director DeAmbra.
Yes.
Motion passes.
do you have any idea on how far along you will have be on this in 30 days?
Us?
Staff, yes.
No, no idea at all. I mean, no one's getting anything done for 2 weeks, so not very far.
Yeah.
I mean, since November, we've gotten hardly anything from the engineers. We'll have a timeline and
Okay. Yeah, it's just,
the steps. And yeah, that'll be.
Okay.
So you're,
The next meeting is January 15th.
Okay, January 15th. It's taken some time, but we're getting there. Okay. So, that is it with the committee report on Horizon Drive. I appreciate you guys coming in. I appreciate your time. Now we're going to move on to the action items. 7A, this is our December meeting where we appoint the president, vice president, and the committees for the upcoming year. I would like to say that I want to stay with the committees as they are right now, and I think some of that was demonstrated through this process. I think we're all learning and getting up to speed, and I think to switch committees right now would be a learning curve that we don't need thrown at us. So if people are comfortable with the committees that they're currently on, this would be a time to speak up if you want to do something differently.
I think that's a good idea, that we get better as opposed to going over here and, you know, it's a lot to learn.
Before you say that, Frank is not on any committees because.
Hey, it's perfect.
Carl was not on any, so if you do that, he will not have any committees to be on.
He's on the committee with,
That's
The
an ad
Horizon-
hoc committee,
That's
that's
an ad hoc,
different
okay.
from our standing committees,
okay.
so, just so you know that.
We can appoint him to committees later on, can't we?
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, we're the board.
It just has to be on the agenda.
Okay.
But I think that Frank is devoted a lot of time and energy to the Horizon thing, and we do have the authority as a board where we can change stuff up,
Yeah.
but I don't want to change horses right now.
I think it's smarter to do it that way. It's more efficient, effective, that we get a little time and grade, if you will, doing learning. I certainly need to continue learning. And I wouldn't want to go somewhere else and go back to square A. I think that serves the board and the community better that way. We get a little more knowledgeable. Not a lot, just a little bit. Each meeting, each committee meeting. So I support that. I think that's a smart thing to do.
And we have not completed some of our work that we're doing on the wastewater treatment plan. There are things that I think are going well right now. And how about you, Frank?
Yeah, I mean, that does make sense for continuity, for sure. So, yeah, I would agree.
Okay. Then appointment of board
So
president.
I think we should have a formal motion.
Oh, okay.
The appointment of the committee is just to comply with the policy manual. It says you're going to appoint and publicly announce the members of the standing committee each year, so there should be a motion to reappoint the same members.
Okay. Will anyone here entertain a motion to leave the committees intact?
I'll make the motion that we leave the committees stand with the current people on this current committees.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
So we have a motion by Director Deambra and a second by Director Muller to leave the committee assignments the same as 2019. For the 2020 year, we'll do a roll call vote. Director Redford,
Aye.
Director Beard,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Muller,
Aye.
Director Deambra.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, now for the appointment of board president and vice president.
I would like to carry that on with the same philosophy we used on the committee. You kind of got in stride, or getting in stride. You're much more comfortable. I don't find a reason to change the president. Council has to kind of spoon feed us in the early stages on the protocol, how we present things to the board, to staff, to the community. You're getting in stride, you're getting comfortable. I would like to stay with you as the president.
I appreciate that, and I feel the same way. There's a learning curve to this, and I feel like I am getting the hang of it and learning by making mistakes and by doing things right. And I would like to continue because we have some important work. Whenever there are new people, we spoke earlier about there being a new board, it is an opportunity to get things done, and that's what we've been doing. So I certainly like that. So, the motion,
I'll make a motion that, Madam President, be retained to serve a second term here at the Community Service District as president.
Are we doing each one, or are we gonna do
I seconded.
all of
Each one?
we'll do each one?
So right now, we have a motion on the table by
president.
Yeah.
Director Deambra with a second by Director Redfern that I remain president. So Wendy, if you could do a roll call.
We'll do a roll call vote. Director Redfern,
Aye.
Director Beard,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Aye.
Director Deandra.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Got a little levity in here.
Okay. Now, all that remains
You
is,
still have to do a vice
Vice
president.
Yeah.
yes, the vice president. Thank you. So, how about vice president? Do we have a motion?
I have a motion that Frank stay on, Mr. Muller stays on as vice president.
Is there a second?
I'll make the second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for Director Muller to remain as vice president.
So we have a motion by Director Beard, a second by Director Deambra to, for Frank, or Director Muller to be the vice president. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Redford,
Aye.
Director Beard,
And you asked Frank.
Wait for my vote.
Well, I'm sure. You didn't have any discussion.
Public comment.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah. I'm okay with that nomination. Thank you for checking.
okay, Director Beard,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Muller,
Aye.
Director Deambra.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
A little late,
So-
Frank, you're already vice president.
No, I know. No, I was actually gonna comment about you. I was gonna say that you have really exceeded my expectations.
I hear that a lot.
No, I mean,
I
I am very, I'm impressed with how you've risen to the challenge.
Well,
And that
thank you.
was the only reason that I wanted to be president, because I was a little afraid that you weren't really quite ready, but you are ready.
Well, I appreciate
And I think
that.
everybody here recognizes that, so I just wanted to affirm that.
We may butt heads with all of us now
Oh,
and
yeah.
then, but.
That's
I think,
healthy.
You know.
It is healthy.
So it's all good.
No, if we haven't exchanged a few punches or taken one on the chin from each other, we're probably not
Right.
friends.
Yeah.
That's how all my friendships start. We call that a Bakersfield hug.
Yeah.
Have a little dust up and then we all become friends. We know each other pretty well after that. Okay, well, so that business of the year is done. Now we can move on to item B, which is discussion and possible action on the application process for rural development of the United States Department of Agriculture funding. This is a grant that Director Beard found out about, and that is why this
Yeah,
is on the agenda.
it's through the USDA, and it's called now I'm going blank.
Rural development.
The general development, but it's a promise, or,
Waste, it's a water and waste disposal loan and grant program.
right, I was thinking it was, but it was going, they named it something else. But there is a possible grant that we can get, but then there's also financing we can get through that. Can staff tell us what they found out? I know.
Yes, so I called them.
Okay.
And we are not eligible for any grants because we are not a disadvantaged community.
Okay.
And Al, the gentleman I spoke to, we have had previous already loans, so he said getting a loan would be no problem. We just have to give him a plan of what we need a loan for.
Right.
But in order to do that, we also have to have authorized, designated people that, through the minutes and a resolution, are approved to start that process.
Okay.
Excuse me, are they competitive on interest? Is it interest-free?
It's not interest free. He
was
didn't
gonna-
give us a specific interest rate.
That was my
because
next question, is what the interest
We
rates are.
need, he said it could be 3%, it could be 5%. It depends on how much we need and what the project's for.
Okay.
But
So-
we would definitely qualify.
This is good information to have on hand for when we do have a need or a desire to borrow money. So, right now, this is informational unless we want to direct staff, but to me, I'm not sure it makes sense to direct, them to pursue something until we know what the plan
Well,
is.
Right.
we can't, we can bring it back for a resolution to go through that process, designating the specific people to submit the information, so that's done, but then we'll need a project, because they're not gonna just go, you can't just go through the process without having a project
Right.
ready.
Right. We're not ready yet to vote on this, so staff to bring it back to us when it's
I
appropriate.
did
I think we
tell
need to
him-
direct staff to bring it back to us when it's appropriate.
I did
Correct.
tell him that we have, project on Horizon Drive installing a sewer line, and there's approximately $4 million that we would need for a solvent wastewater upgrade.
Right.
And he said that would be perfect.
Okay.
So Wendy, are you saying that maybe this is an appropriate time to designate you? I'm not quite sure. They can't talk specifics with you without a,
No, it's all an online thing, and you have to give them all these documents through this online process. And with that online process, they have to have a resolution that designates the authorized people to start the process, sign for the process, and that kind of thing. He did say, so if you guys wanted, you could direct us to develop a resolution authorizing whoever to be the authorized signers, and with an authorized project to start that process, but you don't, they would say, okay, we would give you $7 million. If we asked for 4, they said we give you 7. You don't have to take the money. It just speeds the process along. It just,
Gives you the option.
gives you the option, so we don't have to wait, who knows how long it's gonna take them to go through that process on saying how much money we'll give you. It depends on the project and stuff.
Rick,
So-
do we need to vote on this? Does that have to be a hard vote, or can it be a board consensus to direct staff?
If the action is simply to direct staff to come back with a resolution, if you think it's, time to do that, without having a project yet, then you could direct staff to come back with a resolution, and that could be by, again, consensus or by a formal motion.
Yeah, to start the process, we need to, to come back with a resolution so that we can start this process, because it seems like we have 2 projects that we would qualify for and that we would need the financing for. We could use the financing for, and they could be an option.
Well, we could put it after the Horizon Drive item, and
Right.
then you could say the Horizon Drive project.
Right, but we also are looking at the Solvang project.
I mean, if you're gonna do it, you might as well
Right, if you're
ask
gonna
for
do
it
it.
all and see what they say, because you
Yeah.
don't have to use it, you don't have
Right.
to.
Like I say, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Right.
And
If
the
you don't
other
ask,
part
it's a no.
is you get 40 years, they're willing to go out 40 years.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah, so it brings the payments down.
Yeah.
Is that,
I think, is that a board consensus?
yeah,
To direct staff to come back with a
agree.
resolution?
Yes,
another drawer full of money, sounds good to me.
keeping our options open, I like it. Okay, so by consensus, we are asking that you return with a resolution, and I would think that's probably gonna be at the January meeting. Okay, item C, I would like to table. It's discussion and action on alternatives for wastewater treatment. I don't want to discuss that until we get through some other stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, item D, discussion and action regarding procedures for conducting general manager performance evaluation. No staff report, I'm gonna turn that over to Rick.
Okay, and really just 2 items. One is to select a date for a special meeting to continue the performance evaluation. And the other is to make a decision whether you want to have your Labor and Employment Council, Nate Kowalski, attend either in person or by phone. He's given me his dates of availability, which are January 2nd, 6th, 9th, and 10th. I'm available on any of those dates except for the 6th, but I don't know that you need to have me in attendance. You may not want to have two legal counsel when he's taking the lead on your labor and employment stuff. Anyway, so those are the decision items, date and whether or not to have Nate Kowalski available by phone or in person.
I would say, my own feeling is telephonically would probably do it if we needed Nate at all. But I'm interested in hearing from other people there. People are checking their phones. January 2nd is good for me, but I can work with whatever anybody's schedule is.
What's the
That would
second
mean
one of the
that
dates?
Yeah, the day of the week would be good.
Well, that
If it's a
would mean
Thursday.
That would mean that the agenda goes out on the 1st.
Or tomorrow. I mean, at the airport board, I do my membership meeting agenda a few weeks in advance just to get it done because it doesn't change much.
I'm available anytime. We can put it together. I'll make it as easy as I can.
Yeah, so I know that Fridays aren't the best day for people that go out of town regularly. So I would prefer it, well, but then that makes it a little trickier for you, perhaps, Frank.
Well, no, I mean, I'm actually, amazingly enough, I think I'm open on the 2nd.
Second, okay, so how about Director Redburn?
Yeah.
Okay, January 2nd.
Will that be at 5:30?
Is that the best time for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go with the 5:30.
At what time?
5:30.
Okay, and then.
I need to go check the boardroom calendar. So, give me a second.
Okay.
And then you need to make a decision regarding whether you want to have Nate attend the meeting, and if so, in person or by phone.
Depends which is cheaper.
Well, his drive time is part of the time that it costs us, so we would save more than a few hours by doing it telephonically, and
I think by phones.
having him available would be good.
Yeah.
Is that the board consensus?
Yes.
I
Yes,
think so.
Okay.
Okay, we'll let him know.
and then Wendy's gonna come back and just make sure that there's not a day after New Year's party
Yeah.
scheduled for the room.
And the meeting will need to be noticed, in more than 24 hours in advance, so that could be, anytime, as you point out,
December 28th, or-
Yeah.
yeah.
which is a Saturday, so, yeah.
Is it available?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. So then informational items, we already oh no, this is something different. Informational item A, staff wanted to talk about some finding on payments regarding a Horizon Drive address.
So, I went back and looked. This is the 3066 Horizon Drive. They were annexed in 1996 with a bunch of other properties, and she had paid from, we can only go back to 2000 because that's what the property tax website went back to, and she paid a total of $282.37. But my guess is that she started paying from 1996 when she was annexed. It's like $25 to $28 per year. And it was for the 1980 Series B bonds for the original infrastructure.
Okay.
And when I looked that night, it wasn't on that property tax bill because it was paid off that year that I looked. So she paid the prior year to that. So that's what it's for.
Okay, I'm not really sure, or is there something we're supposed to do with this information?
No, you just wanted to know what it was.
Okay.
Bring it back to
You may recall that at the board meeting, she raised this issue a couple of times, and the first time she raised it, she said, you know, I've been paying all these years, and when you went and checked our records and came back and said, well, you know, the property tax bill shows that you're not being charged anything. So then she came back a second time and said, you know, I really have been paying, and I've talked to my neighbors, and we've all been paying too, so, you know, I didn't make that up.
Right.
So
Yeah.
when he looked into it further and said, oh yeah, in prior years, because, you know, we had the.
But that
GO
was for a
bond.
bond.
Yeah, and so we just wanted to acknowledge that she was correct.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
good.
that, you know, she had the right information, we didn't have complete information, and so we wanted to acknowledge for her benefit, that she's left now, publicly, that what she stated was correct.
No, that was the right thing. I believed her at the time.
Yeah.
You know, so I didn't need further proof that she knew what was on her property tax bill, but I appreciate.
Well, you said to bring it
yes.
back to the next meeting,
Yeah.
so.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay. So now, the manager's report.
Just what's submitted, nothing exciting.
May I ask a question? Is this subject to discussion of possible action on our alternatives for wastewater treatment? Have anything to do with Horizon Drive?
No.
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 And we tabled that item. We tabled
Yes.
that
Yeah.
item.
Thank you.
Okay, good night, Gary. Thank
Gary.
you.
Anything from the recent rains? Are we still tight? Are we?
We're
have you
still
seen
tight.
Any?
Yeah, the guys went out ahead of time with that, because we have a couple in the line ones where where we forget about the air plug that leaks off there. But as you can see with October, that one is just ours. You know, November is the same way, just a little higher, around 120,000 gallons a day. Those spikes represent more of the weekends. And then same way right now with, and this is just October, we don't have November for any rainy times with Solvang, but you can see Solvang's the same way, those spikes represent the weekends. Next month, if there's any ones like that, you'll see large spikes, but we haven't been seeing it with ours. That's part of our other part with our smart covers.
I was just gonna ask you about that, only because I'm a tech geek and I really wanted to see how you were actually using that.
Well, and they gave us a free trial on the rain gauge part of it, but back to it hasn't really rained until now, to see if there's any sort of correlation that we can draw from that. I wish there was more to report that we had more remote, just taking the rain gauge at the airport and tying that in, which, as we know, can be kind of spotty throughout the valley. What it has done, though, I think there was some of the initial increases in the Longhorn off track. We sometimes see some of that. That's one where it's stubbed out for the Meadow Lark property over there, or Meadow Vale, and then that's where there's also plugs, so sometimes it goes up. But no, right now we haven't seen it, we haven't seen any big problems down the way, so it's pretty tight. But once again, as you know, it takes a while for that ground to get really good and saturated, which is back, that's our.
I was just thinking more along the lines as if we had an open or somebody had just like decided they were gonna tie into the line for drainage on their property.
Yes, we
And
did
then
have
you would
issues
see
with
between the manhole covers, the smart manhole covers, you'd see a spike on one side that's not contiguous along the whole path.
Yeah, we had one of those that we're watching because it was a twofold. If you're not aware, some years ago, the board got us into the drainage business, so it's kind of a odd little, I don't even know what to call it, but we fixed that guy's problem, but everyone's seen us over there doing, up on the hill in Skyline, these folks up there put in a pool, there was a couple up there, they were pulling the cap off of their drainage things and draining everything into that 4-inch line. So it was going in the sewer, and then it was also overflowing into the property to the west of there, or no, of the east of there, down below. And that's where we discovered that many a year ago, we had an agreement with this individual by board resolution that we would take care of their drainage issue on that. Yeah. Kind of odd and obscure, but we.
Was that in
went ahead-
Skyline?
It's down from Skyline.
Oh.
But the property that was pulling their cleanouts was in Skyline. So that's on the very northern part of Skyline was where that area was, north and east. So it abuts
Highland.
then, what?
The back of Highland, the
The
end.
back of Highland. So
Yeah.
one of those last 3 or 4 houses up there on the east side of that.
Yeah,
And I understand there's a pool that was put in, there's that pool's, preventing the groundwater from migrating through there, surfacing, and of course, all of a sudden, a brand new pool, and here's our clean out, so it's going down there, and then there's a lower area down there where there was the problems from years ago. But we put in a nice big concrete grate to hopefully resolve the problem right now, because, it's one of our latent powers, it's not activated, so it's interesting territory, but we fixed it as per the resolution.
Right.
But no, we haven't seen any of the others, so that was very fortunate right now.
Okay.
So, but the guys have been doing a good job cleaning and videoing it, and, we're just titling that.
Good.
okay.
So, good question, thank you.
Okay, legal counsel's report.
Just one thing to mention, not terribly important news, but whenever we have a project of any kind and have to do environmental review, or if there's, if it's exempt, this even includes adopting certain types of ordinances, we file a notice of exemption with the county, and the county, as of last year, started charging a $50 fee for processing those notices of exemption. And if we do a more involved document, we might have to do a negative declaration or something along those lines for the Horizon project, for example. Then you file a notice of determination. It's also a $50 fee, but the Department of, what used to be the Department of Fish and Game, now the Department of Fish and Wildlife, also charges a fee to review any kind of environmental document that might impact resources under their jurisdiction, fish and wildlife resources. And they charge a fee which has been going up over the years from, not insignificant to getting to be a pretty sizable fee. And this year it just went up again from $2,300 to $2,400. So there's a notice on that just came out that their fees are going up again. And they seem to go up by about that amount every year. That's just a little information item on a new fee that the districts, or an increased fee that the district's required to pay.
I think it's important because those fees add up and people want to know why the cost of things are more, and that's part of it, the regulation and the fees attached to doing things. So I appreciate that report. Okay. Secretary Treasurer's report.
Okay, we were contacted by the Summerlin Sanitary District. They're asking if any of the board of directors in the local areas are available to attend a good governance training and fulfilling the district's mission. Charting the course training. This is a special leadership foundation through CSDA official training that they are hosting. And it would, if all of you attended, you would all get your good governance certificates, and that would be the board training that we always talk about, you guys going to attend so you could learn the roles of being a good board. This training would cover that, and it's at Summerlin, so you wouldn't have to travel to San Diego, travel to Sacramento,
When is it? When is it?
Well, they're looking at February, March, April. They want to know who's interested, and if they get 20 people, it would be $275 per board member. So they need 20 people to have it because it's like a $4,500 training, $4,500 to $5,500 training, depending on how many people show up. So it's a perfect opportunity for you guys to attend that training, and it's local, and
How long is it?
Yeah, one day.
it's 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
So it'd be 4.5 hours on one day. And that would put us up at the platinum level of the District of Distinction through CSDA, which is the highest level of achievement that a board can achieve in a district.
It's in Summerlin?
It would be in Summerlin, yes.
I'd be real interested, a lot more interested if they did it maybe June, July.
Well,
August,
you have February,
in the
March,
summer.
April as their alternative months. So,
That's,
So-
I would be interested, the
Since I
later the
work
better.
right, my office is in Summerlin, I'm fine with
Oh,
it.
well, there you go.
I'm down there every day.
So if you guys are interested, I can report to them and say we have, 5 people, 4 people.
The only thing is, if it's in March, I'm gone for a week, out of the country, so,
Well, it could be March.
yeah.
Yeah.
The other 3 weeks of March. I mean, you
Right,
can
right.
say whatever month
I'm
would be
definitely
better.
interested in it.
Huh?
I'm definitely interested in doing it and, just,
So do you have a specific month?
at this point, let me look at the main calendar.
Which is, February, March, April, or what is what you said?
February, March, April.
It should be nice if we did it all together.
Yeah.
Well, you would have to do it all together.
'Cause they're doing
Because
it-
it's only a one-day
Right.
training.
Oh, okay, I thought it was kind of revolved, okay,
No.
my mistake.
And if there's 3 or more, we have to notice that you were having the training.
Yeah, that's fine.
So
For me, it
anybody-
depends on when it is in the month.
Well,
Yeah.
we could just say you prefer this month, or not even say anything and say we have, 3 people that are interested.
We're like the sewer customers on Horizon. We are all interested. And
We just want more information.
I think probably half of us at least will be able to go once we get the
April would
information.
probably be better for me,
I'm thinking the
April?
same.
yeah,
I'm okay with April.
because I know I have, that's,
And actually, for me, the earlier the better, because we get busy in landscaping,
The what?
the warmer it gets.
Yes.
But I'm fine with April if everybody else is good with that.
So what's the second choice?
February,
February?
it doesn't really matter, I'm
Yeah.
good. Just we'll make
I'm
it.
fine from the 12th on. I mean, I can still probably make it in February,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I can put February as the second alternative.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like a huge opportunity to have this training done where everybody will benefit from it.
Yeah.
And it's like highly important, like for the board members to attend
Yeah,
and for the district,
yeah.
so. So everybody,
April sounds good to me.
We're all interested,
April,
April,
then
and
February.
February's
February
the
as
second.
as a backup?
Yes.
That's great.
okay, I'll let them know.
Okay.
Okay, and we did the committee report on the Horizon Drive, the ad hoc committee. We covered the next personnel thing. So wastewater committee, I don't know that we have anything to report.
No, we don't. We were waiting on,
Proposal?
yes. Where are we with that, Jeff?
I've turned it over to an engineering firm, not heard back from them since before November, so once I do, they had a whole bunch in front of us, I'll let you know.
I thought you were gonna take that lead.
No, you and Karen were in my office and said, no holds barred, carte blanche, have someone do that, so I finally found an engineer firm that would help with that, and now they were supposed to contact us on Friday, I've not heard from them yet.
And,
That was to get it done in a timely
Yeah.
fashion, not carte blanche without a cutoff. That was to have it ready
Do you
for.
want me to cancel it then, or?
what time, you said, Jeff, you said you would have it in September in 30 days, quote, you said, or real close, you were very reassuring to this board that you would have that in 30 days. The next meeting, which was October, you said.
I had
Excuse me, I'm talking and then I'll give you the floor, sir. You said you would, that we have to go from a proposal to a time and materials. The president and I met with you in your office and asked you, what's going on with it, and you made the comment, council told me we can't do it this way, and I didn't get the information from Solvang that you needed.
That's correct, too.
Okay, well, as a matter of fact, I went to Solvang. They told me that you got everything you requested from them. Okay, that's their statement, not
So
mine.
is this, I think so, it's not on the agenda, okay. So
we can't
maybe,
get into a discussion.
then, okay, maybe what
But I
we
mean,
can say
but
is we don't
this-
have a report to give, from wastewater, and that's,
Well, why?
so that's the end of the committee report.
Maybe, but it is relative because this is what, 4 months now, nothing's done.
But
and
this
then you-
isn't agendized,
Okay.
Yeah.
so let's just leave it there. Okay, so that's it on committee reports. We have nothing to report that hasn't already been reported. And then tentative agenda items. Horizon financing is on there. And sewer options, that's pretty ongoing. As is the Solvang wastewater treatment upgrade. The sewer code, I don't know that we've discussed that yet. And design specifications. Is anything else? We tabled the engineering, the engineer that changed companies on the consent agenda, Mr. Morrow, so that should be on the next agenda. And then also we said in January that we would have the list and the action timeline for Horizon Drive. Anything else? Okay, well, if that is it, this meeting is adjourned. San Ynez Community Service District adjourned at
20?
Yes. I don't trust that clock. It's old. Okay, meeting adjourned. Before 7:30, nice. Ow, that looked like that hurt, Jay. Welcome to middle age. Yeah. But don't worry, it gets a lot easier as you get older.